Allow me to introduce myself.
I am the last sane sports fan.
I am a genius by trade.
I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly.
Hello everyone and welcome once again to The View from the Midwest. It's been a few days since I've done a show, sorry about that, but things kind of come up. It's been a little bit difficult to kind of record these in the afternoon. But let's get right into it. A couple interesting debates were had yesterday across the sports media, so let's get right into them. Both of them seem to be somewhat centered around Aaron Rodgers. Not that he's done anything bad, quite the opposite. The first one was the idea of what's wrong with backup quarterbacks and quarterbacks in general, really, if you think about it. The idea came about, and really I kind of agree with it, that in today's sports, the difference between the pros and college is kind of widening. Not necessarily just in terms of formations that you play, because it used to be 5-10 years ago that college was mainly kind of a spread kind of offense, either that or playing option football, and the pros were still playing in a pro set. Well, now in the pros you get more spread a little bit. You have a lot of shotgun formations. You'll never see a true option offense simply because the quarterbacks would get murdered. I still kind of wonder why you couldn't do it, but ultimately I do understand, because the NFL is so much more violent, so much more powerful than the college game, so much faster, that it would be difficult to pull off. But I still think that it could be done if somebody was willing to commit to it, but nobody is. Understandably so, because you're paying quarterbacks hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of their career if they can stay healthy. But the idea basically was, and I've thought about this in the past, with whether it was the Rams situation or the Bears current situation or a lot of situations across the league. It used to be like when I was growing up, I mean, I'm not sitting there with my head in the sand saying, oh, well, backup quarterbacks used to be great, and all of a sudden now they're not. But you used to have a lot more quality backups within the league. Frank Reich helped the Bills go to Super Bowl one year when their quarterback was injured. Kurt Warner was a backup. Jeff Hostetler stepped in when the Giants won the Super Bowl. There is a list of people who have stepped in and done fairly well. And the reason that somebody came up with, and I completely agree, is the fact that we're teaching quarterbacks to be throwers, not quarterbacks. And they're not completely learning the game. And I completely understand that, because I think that's why you're seeing such talented people come up through college into the NFL and not fully transition, whether it's Tim Tebow, whether it's Johnny Manziel, whether it's, there's a laundry list now of people that aren't as quite as successful as, it takes a lot to be special anymore, whether it's Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. There are people that do it, but the majority of the people struggle a little bit coming in because they're not being taught to read the game. They're basically like relying too much on their physical abilities, especially when it comes to somebody like Johnny Manziel or Tim Tebow. Their will to win, their physical capabilities, being able to scramble around, but they've never truly learned to read the game, and I think that's why you see so many people come in, struggle, throw interceptions. It's not just the fact that the NFL is a different animal. It's simply because, like they said, I believe it was on ESPN college football, Trevor Maddich, basically talking about that people were not taught to read the game anymore. They're just taught to throw the football, and they've relied too much on their physical abilities. There's really no way to change that. I mean, coaches have got to win. They can't necessarily worry about developing quarterbacks for the NFL. But it's just an interesting kind of take. Another interesting kind of take was brought up by Aaron Rodgers, a little bit more on the negative side, but nothing he's done wrong. Jameel Hill and Michael Smith got into a heated argument on ESPN over the comparison of Aaron Rodgers to Michael Jordan. And basically the way the comparison became about, because Aaron Rodgers is at the top of his game, possibly the best quarterback in the NFL. There's a big argument to be had there, but also because of a lot of his endorsements. He's with State Farm. I'm not sure if he's done any of the DirecTV commercials that are around, but he's got a couple of them out there. But ultimately, it is a fairly ridiculous argument. It's fun to have. There's nothing wrong with having it. But it's a completely apples to oranges situation, because there is really no comparison to Michael Jordan, simply because Michael Jordan, whether you want to believe that LeBron James is a better player, whether you want to believe that, oh, well, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was better because he had more points, or Wilt the Stilt was better because he was absolutely dominant and changed the way the NBA wanted to be played. The bottom line is Michael Jordan was the greatest of all time as the whole package, because it was a perfect storm when he came around. When he came around, sneakers were becoming the big thing. People were wearing basketball sneakers to school, to work, to out. It wasn't as much of a, oh, well, we're going to dress up to go out, and then have basketball sneakers were only for playing basketball. Now that kind of started in the 80s with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, but it hit its zenith with Michael Jordan. There are still athletes today, even though Michael Jordan has been retired for at least 10 years, technically longer than that, because I consider him retired when he left the Chicago Bulls, but that's another topic. People are still wearing his shoe brand. There aren't very many people out there, if anybody really that I know, that is retired and still has their own shoe brand within the Nike umbrella. He came around when that was hitting its peak. You had Bo Jackson that was going to be a big superstar. You had all sorts of people getting their shoe contracts, a lot of them within basketball. But Michael Jordan took it to the next level. He was a worldwide phenomenon when it came to that. He was the greatest of all time, potentially in his own sport. I mentioned a couple names, Wilt the Stilt, Kareem Abdul. But Michael Jordan is up there in the all-time argument. You could say that, oh, you could pick out Wilt, you could pick out Kareem, you could say maybe Dr. J, you could say maybe LeBron James. It'll be interesting to see where he's at the end of his career. But LeBron James, more so than Aaron Rodgers, it's the only one that even comes close. But still, you've got Michael Jordan up here, and I'd say LeBron James up here, because LeBron James has a ton of advertising opportunities. He's with Sprite, he's with Powerade, he's got his own shoe, although it's not nearly as well known across the world as Air Jordans are. But he's up there. He's a marketing machine. He gets his face out there and does a good job of it. But that being said, he's still not on the level of Michael Jordan. I'm not talking necessarily even playing, but just the overall brand name of LeBron James. You go across the world, and yeah, there's going to be a lot of people who know who LeBron James is, but more so than Aaron Rodgers. That's what people in this country forget, is that American football isn't necessarily known worldwide the way that a lot of sports are. I mean, football, aka soccer, is the big sport around the world, and a lot of people don't necessarily follow American football. There are more probably basketball fans around the world who are willing to know who LeBron James is, but Michael Jordan was a name in and of himself. He was a superstar because you didn't necessarily even know anything about basketball, but you say Michael Jordan, and a lot of people will know who you're talking about. And that was why he was probably the greatest of all time in terms of that marketing machine. And not just necessarily throwing it in your face, but, I mean, Gatorade is probably where it is at because of Michael Jordan. Gatorade is huge. It probably would have become a big product regardless. But because of the fact that they had that Be Like Mike campaign, everybody really knows who Michael Jordan is and who Gatorade is because of that ad campaign. It was a huge thing. Nothing Aaron Rodgers does is going to come close to that. Nothing that LeBron James is going to come close to that. It was a perfect storm because when Michael Jordan came around, that was the big thing, to really have these huge marketing campaigns centered around one athlete. And although they still do it, you don't see it everywhere globally the way that you did back then. And Michael Jordan was the key to all of that. He built an empire based solely on his marketing. He probably could have sustained himself and not taken one single game check simply because he was making so much money. But he was also in the conversation for best of all time. Aaron Rodgers, for as good as he is, maybe will go down as one of the best of all time at the end of his career. But right now, he's not necessarily even the best quarterback in the league. You still have Peyton Manning. You still have Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers is obviously up there, but there are arguments to be made for other people. Michael Jordan didn't necessarily have many peers when he played. He still doesn't have many peers now, so it's kind of an apples to oranges situation. That is the view from the Midwest. What are your views on today's topics? What do you think about quarterbacks? Do you think they're too much throwers, not really playing the position, reading the field out there? What do you think about Michael Jordan being the greatest of all time in terms of that overall package? Obviously, there's a huge argument about LeBron James versus Michael Jordan and Michael Jordan versus the past and all that. But in terms of that overall package, what do you think about that? That is the view from the Midwest. As I mentioned, comment, rate, and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll keep on rolling. But until the next time, I'll see you then.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space.